What is going on, Stampede? Welcome back to the channel, Twiztid Whiskey Reactions, doing more music video reactions for you guys, and I appreciate you being here. Now, you know, June obviously has some connections with, uh, celebrating certain things during the month of June. However, one of them is mental health awareness, and uh, with that being said, obviously it's a big issue. We've covered some stuff, like when I've done videos like with Ren and some other stuff when we start to talk about mental health and things like that, and the struggle of, you know, people that are both affected by it and indirectly affected by it, meaning like loved ones of people who suffer from, a variety of different things. So, uh, not that that ties someone into this, but I guess it kind of does, and that is, we're gonna check out Dax, who I've heard of, but don't listen to a lot of, really any of his stuff. But this one was suggested to me by somebody called to be a man, and it kind of goes into, I guess, some male uh, mentalities that aren't widely discussed, especially amongst us men who don't share and talk about things when it comes to mental health and our own mental health and stuff like that. So I don't know. We're gonna check it out, but again, you know, when it comes to mental health and stuff, the only thing I could tell you is that don't be afraid to ask for help if you need help. Reach out to the people who care about you, that love you. Because even if you don't think they're there, trust me, there are people who do care about you. And that can even include a perfect stranger. So reach out to people, and uh, don't be afraid to share those things and talk about those things if that's what you need. And I'm not saying everybody operates that way, but it's definitely better than the alternative, right? So with that being said, let's get into this video and check it out and see what Dax has to say about, I guess, something about being a man. So let's check it out. But you know what we got to do first? We got to mount up. Let's roll. Here we go.
I can't hide myself. I don't expect you to understand. I just hope I can explain what it's like to be a man. It's a lonely road, and they don't care about what you know. It's not about how you feel, but what you provide inside that home. Yeah, I know this life can really beat you down. You wanna scream, but you won't make a sound. Got so much weight that you've been holding, but won't show any emotion. As a man that goes unspoken, that we can't cry when life gets hard. Unconditional loves for women, children, and dogs. We know.
So, uh, okay, so the first part, so let's talk about that, like the sitting in the vehicle thing. Now, I've done that, and for me, it was some of my jobs were relatively close to home, so I didn't have like a long ride home to like decompress about whatever was going on either that day or just stress or whatever. You know, not that I want a long ride home. My wife currently has like an hour, and I don't need all that. But there are times where I've done that, where I've sat in my car after getting home for a minute, or in my truck, and decompressed and had to like shake it off before I go in the house. And some of that was to not try to bring things in, carry things over from my day or whatever. And some of that was just, the burden of what was going on. You know, I worked a lot of off shifts when my kids were little because daycare was so expensive, and you know, then when my kids were in school, you know, it just worked out that I could come home in the mornings after working nights and get them on the bus so that my wife could leave for work. And I work swing shifts where every week there's a lot of stress and burdens with that I carried that, you know, just you don't talk about. Like he said, you want to scream but you don't make a sound. You know, some days I really didn't want to like just say F it, man, I can't do this, I can't keep doing this. And then you see your kids, you know, you have, you know, that they're dependent on you, and then you swallow that and then just get up and go back to work, and it just day after day. So I get that. I get a lot of what he's saying. There are times where, you know, you feel like it's not appreciated in the way that you think that maybe it should be. And I think that could go for anybody, man or woman. The things that you do aren't appreciated in certain ways. And that goes to somewhat of just maybe the person understanding you and knowing the things that you need to hear that pick you up and keep you going, which is what I find amazing about my wife, and the way that she supports me is she knows I don't need a lot. There's small things, appreciative words, you know, that when I'm in a funk can pop me out and just get my head screwed back on straight, you know, mentally, and focused on what needs to be done, which is take care of them to the best of my ability. So the unconditional part about being for women, children, and dogs, you know, I think I heard that said somewhere too, like I think it was a Chris Rock joke or something. And to a point, I agree with that. I mean, I don't doubt that I'm loved and stuff, but you know, I think there's definitely a sacrificial sense when you think about a traditional man, which is how I was raised and how I try to women and children first. Titanic. You know, the men were expected to, you know, that's their job, to make sure that they're safe, you know, at all costs. So, you know, you think about it that way. I don't know. I mean, again, some of that can depend on, you know, who you share your life with. I guess, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rant for that long, but that first verse already was, yeah, hitting different.
Unconditional loves for women, children, and dogs. We know that we just have to play our parts, and don't nobody give a damn about our broken hearts, yeah. As a man, we gotta pave our way. Our only function is to work and slave. There's no respect for you if you ain't paid. You're disregarded as a human and you can't complain. And if you ever make it up and actually reach that place and find a woman that you love and give her your last name, you'll feel the things that you provide is only why she stays. And when you try to explain, you'll say, I can't hide myself. I don't expect you to understand. I just hope I can explain what it's like to be a man. It's a lonely road, and they don't care about what you know. It's not about how you feel, but what you provide inside that home.
Okay, so on that part, I will say this, and you know, I see videos all the time now of, and I'm not saying all women, but what, you know, you see these TikToks of women talking about what their preferences are when it comes to dating men, and most of it comes down to income and height. You know, I'm 5'10", I don't make six figures, you know, but if I were single, I would definitely feel like Oh God, I wouldn't want to be. I hope Becky never leaves me. I got to do better. But anyway, I wouldn't want to date right now. I do have single friends that are around my age that are trying to date, and it's just the horror stories I hear about the expectations and the things that go on, and you know, uh, I can't even imagine like what kind of pressure that would put on uh, somebody to try to fit a mold that it seems like everybody wants, and be in a place where when you look at social media and stuff, it's constantly, and you're that dude that they're putting down, like you're in that bracket where they're like, oh yeah, I wouldn't date that, I don't want that, I need a successful man. I'm a blue collar guy. I have a blue collar job. I never went to college. I was in the military, so my whole life has been in factories, and just doing anything overtime, whatever it took to try to you know do the best I possibly could. And I'm one of the lucky ones that found a awesome woman who appreciates that stuff. So I can't imagine what that pressure would be like today if it were me, where I would just feel constantly like I'm not good enough for anybody. And that's such a bad, dark place to be in, man. So a lot of truth. I mean, and some of this is the way we think. So it's not necessarily saying that this is the way people, at least in my experience, like I've never been made to feel. I mean, in some cases, people have been pretty straightforward about stuff like this and put you down, but more of it is like a mental thing for me, where I feel like I have to do better all the time. I have to do more. I need to be more, you know, and that's the things I put on myself rather than it being an external type pressure.
But what you provide inside that home, don't give up, keep fighting. As a man, our sun is our horizon, and our father's actions play a role, and we end up like them. So they can't let us see them hurt, cause we'll embody what they do and start a generational curse. No wonder most men are so depressed, all the things that they can't express. They go to war, get thrown on the shelf, then go back to war with their mental health. Then grab that bottle and ask for help, try to pull themselves out of hell, then fall back down and then realize that they're gonna have to do it themselves. It's the circle of life. As a man, you provide. They don't know what you're worth till the day that you die, and that's when they start crying. Then move on to a man to confide in. That's
Okay, okay. So I do have a son, um, and you know what he says about starting a generational curse and stuff. I try very hard not to let the pressures that I feel um negatively impact my kids. And don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. It happens from time to time. It gets the best of me and stuff. But to my son, anyway, what I've tried to instill in him, even with his autism and stuff, is that, yo, as a man, the effort is what should matter. You should put in the work. You should, if you do those things, if you try to be a good man, if you try to be an honest person, those are the things that will, at the end of the day, carry you through life better than success and stepping on people to get there, to obtain some sort of status. Status is really such a superficial thing that, you put your head down, you go to work, you do the things that you have to do, and you sacrifice a lot of the things that you want to do or want. Uh, and that's, it's not an expectation. It's what it, to me, means to be a good man. Now, I don't My wife and my daughter, they have different paths than me and my son do. And that's just the reality of it. I mean, you can say what you want, but men and women have very different paths when it comes to navigating life and finding people and the pressures that come with both. And women have their own issues, but as a man trying to teach my son how to be a man, those are some of the things that I try to instill in him is, what my father told me about it's not about you, and it never is about you. From the day you meet somebody that you want to start a life with and a family with, you are not the priority and you will never be the priority again. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because when I'm able to do things for my wife or my family, and we're able to do those things, the joy and the things that I know that it brings to them is my payoff. That's I you know So I don't know, it's a weird dynamic, and it sounds very complicated, I guess, to verbal like put it into like a to verbalize it and make it make sense, but it really is simple. It when they say men are simple creatures, I truly believe, like, I am a simple dude. My wife repays me with like peace. She knows I my peace is number one to me. So she does her best to give me that, and I do my best to give her everything that she needs, and that's how we work together. So, but you know, the part about not knowing what someone's worth until they die, then you cry, then you're sorry, then you miss them, but when they're here, and they're working and they're killing themselves for you, you know, that's not when, the appreciation comes in. It's when you're gone and they don't have that stuff. I get that too. I do. I really do. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
Why we feel we can't hide ourselves. We don't expect you to understand. We just hold.
And real quick, the veteran thing, we've touched on this in other videos. It's an absolute disgrace what our country and even us, like, we don't need the government to take care of our veterans. We can be doing that on our own. So some of the blame to me does go on the government, but our veterans, the way we treat our veterans as just a society, to me, it's more of a societal issue than like a government issue. Could there be better programs? Absolutely. Could there be better things done for them? Absolutely. But these men and women, like when I was in the Marines, I didn't give a shit who the president was. I wasn't there to die for the president. I wasn't there to sacrifice myself. And most of the people that were with me, we did it because of the people back home. We did it for the country we love, for the freedoms we do have, to fight for those things that truly meant something to us and the people that meant something to us. And then they come home and those same people will spit on you on the sidewalk and look down on you as a bum, or, not understand the things you went through. So to me, more of that blame falls on us as a society, how we handle veterans. And even to that point, the things we let the government get away with and totally disrespect it, I could go on, so I just wanted to touch on that, because that, I do understand what he's saying with that.
We can't explain what it's like to be your man. It's a lonely road, and you don't care about what we know. It's not about how we feel, but what we provide inside that home. Inside that home. It's not about how we feel, but what we provide inside that home. Inside that home.
Well, I mean, it's a hard hitting video, man. It it's lot of truths. It's a lot of the way men feel. I have felt that way in the past, when it came to certain things, and you know, but at the end of the day, nobody gives a shit. Nobody's coming to save you. That's one of the things I think that carry with me more than anything is nobody's coming to save you. That hit me. Somebody said that to me once, was, you know, you could have all these problems, all this stuff, all this shit going on. Nobody's coming to save you, dude. So you have to figure out a way to pick your ass back up and solve the problem, push through it, and that's a mentality that I think has actually benefited me in the long run. It's a cold way of thinking, I get that, but to me it's a truth that at the end of the day, nobody's coming to save you. It's, I don't know. It does sound cold, I guess. When I'm thinking it, it's I guess not as abrupt, but and like for me, again, this video is so long already, but my whole thing was when I knew I was gonna have a family, that even before I knew what situation we were gonna be in with uh the special needs and stuff like that, it was immediate. Like, I want to give them a better life than I had as a kid. And if you ask my dad, his whole thing, why he worked so hard, was to give us a better life than he had. So just that was ingrained in me, is that the family part of it was do everything you can to give them better than you had, and you hope that continues generationally. If you have a son, as a father, you want your son to understand that. And that, I guess that's kind of like what I mean by, like, you're not the priority anymore. The priority becomes to try to give your kids a better life, a better shot at their future than you had. And I'm not saying my parents didn't do a good job. My parents put me in a very good position. I'm definitely in a better place because of them, and what my mom and what my dad instilled in me, I think, helped get me to where I am, as well as my wife. Like, we both came into our relationship coming off of bad situations and stuff, and we picked each other up. But if we didn't already have some type of mentality ingrained in us, and like I said, for women, it may be a different mentality, then we wouldn't have been able to be successful together and as a family. And to me, the successful part is I see my kids having a better childhood, a better life than I did. And not to say mine was bad. I had a good childhood. So to give them better is just, to me, is like what I was supposed to do. So to whatever degree I could. So crazy. I like Dax. That's a strong video, and I know it'll hit people different ways, but again, I rambled long enough on this video, so I just enjoyed it. I think if you guys have any other good Dax ones, I believe I had a request for one called Joker as well, so maybe I'll get into that one next time. So if you want to subscribe and click that bell, and maybe when that bell goes off, it'll be the Joker video or one of my many other videos that I'll be doing over. I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this. I don't know. That made absolutely no sense. Now I'm rambling. So, anyway, let's wrap it up there. So, you guys know the deal, man. Stay good. Do no harm. Take no bull. Let's go.